We conclude today chapter 34. Chapter 34 is continued concept of joy, of that we make in us a mishkan, a sanctuary for God. God becomes a sanctuary. How does he become a sanctuary in me? Well, what we're doing right now, learning Torah. Learning Torah creates a sanctuary for God. Well, there's always been sanctuary for God. God's always been revealed somewhere. God is everywhere. But a sanctuary means he's revealed, because in the world as a creator, he's not revealed, but certain places. So the patriarchs, the prophets, Moshe Rabbeinu, Moses, the greatest of all prophets, God revealed himself through them, in their very being, because they were so subservient and one with God. The Jewish people collectively was at Mount Sinai, but that was too much for us. So therefore God said, make a sanctuary for me. I'll reveal myself there. But the sanctuary has been destroyed. Second Holy Temple, first and second, both destroyed. We are in exile now. Where is God? Where is his presence? Where is he revealed? Where is he revealed? In his divine will and wisdom in the Torah. Specifically. So what we're learning right now, we have the opportunity of revealing God in us, through our study of Torah. So if you do it a whole day, wow. Now, I know myself, and I'm sure most everyone here, you're not on social media a whole day learning Torah. If you are, then amazing. But we're not learning Torah a whole day. So, if we can only learn a certain amount, that certain amount, but we would devote ourselves even more if we had the time, because since we have other responsibilities that we don't have the time, as a result, it's considered like the whole day you studied. So you become a sanctuary for God. And in particular, because the rest of the day, what are you doing? You're giving tzedakah, you're being charitable. Since you're being charitable, doing other mitzvahs, that you are acting like God. God is kind, so we're kind. He's compassionate, we're compassionate. We follow the attributes, that we emulate the divine attributes of God Almighty. So when we're doing that throughout the day, so we become further a sanctuary for God. In other words, God dwells and is present in us, through us. And the Alter Rebbe even goes further and says, the food that we eat, that gives us strength to do the mitzvah that we do, also creates a sanctuary in us. So we have the capability of hosting God in our very being throughout the day. The point the Alter Rebbe says is that this should bring us joy, because this is what we're talking about over here. We're talking about joy. Different levels of joy, and this is, in a sense, perhaps the highest level. As we become a sanctuary, a place of divine presence of God. Through our Torah study in particular, that then, because we have other obligations, so therefore we are emulating God throughout the day, being charitable and the like. And therefore, even though charity, we're only giving a tenth or 20% of our funds, but it elevates the rest of the money, and the rest of that money that's used for us, in any case, gives us strength that we could then fulfill the mitzvahs, and therefore we're emulating God. So, what we have over here, because we're concluding the 34th chapter, 5 levels of joy that I say there's 5 levels. I don't know, everybody would say that, but the way I understand it. The first level of joy is taking care of the stuff that you need to take care of on the side of our challenges, our failings. We own our stuff and we deal with our failings. there is a feeling of joy than when you've dealt with it. In the midst of it, there's a downer, there's bitterness because we change, but then there's a sense of you did the right thing, you owned it, and you're moving forward. There's a sense of joy there. A greater sense of joy that comes from then turning the focus, not focused on our body's agenda, the animal soul that gives it vitality, but on the godly soul. And then recognizing that it is imprisoned. And then every time I study Torah, like we're doing now, we're doing a mitzvah, emulating God, we release that soul from prison. Our soul. The son of the king, being returned to the palace. That gives joy to us. It gives joy to God too, to the king. So that's the second level. At the same time, we should recognize that when we're releasing and focusing on our divine soul, we're not allowing the animal soul to have its space, we're actually crushing the negativity in us. Every time we don't give it its space or its playtime in my head. That's powerful. That's also something we should be joyful over. And then there is joy. In chapter 33 was that we get an awareness of what our faith is. That God is the only reality. And when I'm aware that God is the only reality, that awareness itself should bring us joy. That is the deep faith that we have. Not that God is one and there's no other idolatry. There isn't the God Zeus. There isn't the God money. There isn't the God of pleasure. There's only one God. No. There's only one reality, and that's God. When we contemplate that and we recognize that, that brings us close to God. Because God's not way up there and commanded me down here and no. It's the only reality, so I'm totally united in one with Him. That is the fourth level. And the fifth level is this chapter. That we are not just united in one with God, that He's the only reality, but we're actually hosting Him in us, revealed in us. That God is revealed in us. How is He revealed in us? Me. Well, when we're studying Torah, we're doing a mitzvah. God is revealed. We become the sanctuary for God. We're hosting Him. That was 5 levels. Again, that was my understanding of Tanya. Now, together with that, the Alter Rebbe concludes an interesting idea, a twist. Speaking about joy, we must have joy in our lives. Joy is an attitude. It's not a feeling. It's an attitude of the mind. It's a sentiment of the heart of, as we explained, 5 different ways that you can have that joy. And if you notice, all of them are something about you doing something to have joy in your life. Whether it's the joy that after you dealt with your stuff, whether it's the joy of recognizing that when you're studying Torah and doing a mitzvah that you're releasing your soul from its imprisonment, whether it's the joy that you recognize and have an awareness that you're crushing negativity when you don't allow it its playtime, and you focus in on the good, whether it's the awareness that there's no other reality but God, and therefore we are close and bound up and united in one with Him, all those, and finally this chapter that we are a sanctuary, all those things are an intellectual understanding. They are mind's awareness. The more we have it, the more it'll bring joy to us. So it's all in our hands to think about this. And therefore allow that to become our reality. Becomes our reality, that creates joy. Finally, the Alter Rebbe concludes and he says, you know what? You can even have a negative, humbling spirit in you at the same time. Be broken and humbled and have joy at the same time. How can you have two feelings at the same time? There are two opposites. Because they're coming from two different causes. So it's capable. Our heart has the capacity of entertaining more than just one feeling at a time. So we can have the sentiment of a humbled heart. That's coming from because we recognize that our animal soul and body needs to be humbled. So I have a sense of humility when it comes to when I focus in on my body and its agenda and the animal soul's agenda. At the same time, joy that comes from my godly soul. Two opposites are not a difficulty to dwell in us. And this is the idea. And that Zohar says that you can have weeping lodge on one side of the heart and joy lodge on the other side of the heart, as Rebbe Lazar understood the depth of and the magnitude of what it meant, the destruction of the Holy Temple. And at the same time, it brought him great joy because the teachings that he got from his father were so profound that it brought joy, the teachings. But then that profundity also brought a sense of weeping, a loss, because then he understood how great the Holy Temple was. So you can have two sentiments, two sentiments in the heart at the same time. Conclude chapter 34, which brings us actually to a conclusion of a section of Tanya about curveballs in our lives, challenges, difficulties in our lives, that we need to have joy. We have to humble the negativity and have joy on the deeper part of who we are, our godly soul, as we gave the 5 different levels of joy, or 5 different areas, and how we can increase our joy. And tomorrow we start a new section, chapter 35, new beginning. And we look forward for everybody. Devorah Leah, thank you very much for joining. Mikael, and thank you for your comment. Appreciate. Mikael, good morning. Solomon from Nigeria, thank you for joining. Joey, that is, from Williamsburg. Thank you. Adele, I don't know if it's Adele, I can't make it out, sorry. Eleanor, good afternoon for the Netherlands. Mark from Manalapan, good morning. Carlos from Brazil, welcome. And Ashley, good morning. Linosh from the Philippines, good morning. Philippines? I don't remember, you have to remind me, Linosh. Shmuley, good morning. Thank you, Denise. John from North Carolina. Sarah Malka from North Carolina. Also. Robert from Sweden, good morning. And Anna from Budapest. Thank you for joining. Darren. Boker Tov from Saskatchewan. All right. Tim from Texas. Shaya, thank you. And Donna from New Jersey. All right, folks. Sharing is caring. Please share the Alter Rebbe's teachings with others. I'm Rabbi Ronnie Fine, coming to you from Chabad Zech and Kadeshim in Montreal, Canada, where it's a privilege and pleasure to share with you the Tanya. Have a wonderful day. Have a wonderful Shushan Purim.